This is an important panel. It's about passing on information to you about how, the life of a game maker. So I'd like this panel to be quite interactive. So I've got plenty of questions, too many questions, actually. I think we could talk for hours. So I'll try and be selective. However, your questions are more important than mine. So if you have a question, if something comes up that you want to know about, you can raise your hand, of course. Also, at the end, I'll leave plenty of time for questions too. So as we go, make a note maybe, and at the end I'll make sure that you can have some time to ask your questions, okay? So, this is a panel called Game Developers Life Lessons. And that could count for many things, but hopefully it'll be practical about being a game developer, but talk a little bit about the business of it and the life of being a game developer, and give you a realistic insight into what it's like to work in this industry. So I think probably first off, to get things rolling, I'd like each of you in turn to introduce yourselves, your name and what you do for a living, a little bit of a summary of your experience and how you got into it. Let's start here. Start here with you, Allan.
Hello, my name is Allan. I am a publishing manager at Kwalee. We are a hyper-casual publisher. Effectively, I look for hyper-casual games for us to publish on a worldwide basis. I've worked at companies like EA, Codemasters, Playdemic, so I've kind of been across console, mobile, PC. That's pretty much it, really.
Cool. No, that's good. That's loads.
Hello, my name is Hazim Hanbali. I'm CEO of MadHook. I've been working in the game industry for 10 years now. I worked in many studios, most of them closed. Before MadHook, I used to work for Tomatem. I worked there for 5 years. We developed games there, then we moved on into publishing. Then I decided to leave to open my own company. And I started my company, me and my partner Ibrahim. He's sitting there in the middle. We started literally in the basement. After that, we joined an incubator here in the business park at the HTU. So far, we created and published around 7 games, mobile games. We do self-publishing. Basically, we develop the game and by publishing it ourselves, we do user acquisition, the whole 9 yards. And that's it.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Patrick.
Patrick McGrath. I'm a product lead at Wooga, specifically for a game called June's Journey, hidden object game. So not as casual as these other folks here. Yeah, my background is worked for quite a diverse number of companies like NCSoft, Z2, rest in peace, EA, and Zynga. So.
Cool. And Reine.
Hello, my name is Reine Abbas. I'm CEO of Wixel Studios, a gaming company in Lebanon. We started in 2008. And we're still going on. We're still working. And also I'm CEO of Speakatech, an academy. We teach kids and teens how to create their own video games. Before all this, I was working with DigiPen, Nintendo, between Lebanon and US. And because of this, I started my journey as an entrepreneur in gaming.
So I tell you what, let's stay with you, Reine. Let's go from there.
Why me first?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to throw you in there first.
No.
So let's start.
I'm the oldest one.
Yeah, let's give people a bit of an insight into how, because there are many people here who are perhaps in the early stages of their career in this. So how did you get your big break in the games industry? How did you get to work in this exciting industry?
I was a visual artist, so I had a master's in visual arts, and I jumped from animation to graphics. And one day, someone told me that DigiPen, you know DigiPen Institute of Technology in the US, they opened a small studio in Lebanon. They want an artist, an animator, and a game designer. So I lied. I said a little lie, it's an innocent lie that I'm really good in game design. I did really big research so I can really survive the meeting. And I started my career in video games as an artist. And then, because I was working with a really big team, 30 developers, I started to learn coding by myself. And I cried a lot of nights because it's really hard to learn coding by yourself. Especially back then, we didn't have e-books or anything online. So, and because of that, I was, after that, head of our department and then head of department. And this is how I started. And then an entrepreneur in gaming.
Oh, that's good. Well, we'll come back to the idea of launching your own studio and things later. But just on that note then, let's come back the other way. Patrick, is bluffing your way in your first interview the way to get into the industry? How did you get your big break? How did you get your big break? That's not.
I mean, there is a little. That's a pointed question. That's a very loaded question. You're like, I would say, yeah, don't outright lie, but I mean, accentuate your strengths. Show the qualities that you have. I think really, from all the studios and all the companies that I've been at, there's kind of some like fundamental aspects that we really look at. Like there's a lot of technical stuff that can be taught, but there's just some fundamental things that like drive and passion, these things. If you're not driven or passionate, not many people are going to hire you. Like we can teach how to code C# or can teach UI, UX, these types of things, but there are some fundamental aspects that no matter what, you just need to definitely show that in any interview.
How about yourself? How did you get your big break? What was the moment when you got your place in the industry?
Well, I got fairly lucky. I had someone reach out. So my background is investment finance, and so I was taking a break and getting my master's, and I randomly got called by someone that just said, hey, there's this Korean video game company that would like to hire a corporate finance guy. I said, all right, well, video games is something I love. I never thought I'd do it as a job, and yeah, so I mean, for me, it was just sheer dumb luck, but never looked back. Like I always loved games, and it was really good to get into this, because I'll tell you, finance is not the funnest.
Well, actually, do you know, I want to ask the same question of these guys, but while you've got the mic, obviously, Wooga is a very big. A very big European mobile games developer. So people looking for a break in that kind of industry, how do you go about recruiting people now?
Well, it's really interesting. So we're in Berlin, and we're about 230 people. But, well, I mean, as of last week, we're represented by 44 different countries around the world. So, I mean, we really hire internationally because, again, it's one of these fundamental things. Like, we need different perspectives in a studio. Like, if it was just an all-German studio, they'd be making different types of games, right? So, like, the different types of people and the different cultures and the different ways of viewing things is very important to us. So we really want to have very diverse and multicultural game teams, because we think that that's the best way to make these casual games.
Cool. That sounds good. Hazim, tell us about your big break in the industry. When did you get started?
Basically, in 2009, I graduated from Princeton University in electronics engineering. Mm-hmm. But I had a huge passion for 3D art in specific and for games in general. Mm-hmm. I had every console that was created since Atari. So one of my friends called me and he told me there's a gaming company here in Jordan and they are looking for someone to work with them. So I was surprised because there was no gaming industry here, none. So I went there. The job was customer support for a web-based game. I started there. Then after that, I started working more on my 3D skills, and we decided. They introduced me to Unity. Mm-hmm. It was Unity 2.6, very very early version, and we decided to create an MMO on the web. It was a total failure, but but I learned a lot.
You learn a lot from mistakes, right?
Yes, that's how I joined the industry.
Great.
Yes.
Out of interest, how many people here are working with Unity? Yeah, that's right. It's about 60% of all games are made in Unity right now. That's interesting. Thanks, Hazim. I'm going to come back to you shortly to talk a little bit about running an independent studio. But Allan, do you want to just tell us how you got started in the industry? How did you get your big break?
Yeah, sure. So I studied games design at university. It was a choice between crime scene investigation and games design. You can imagine which one my parents wanted me to go for, but I got a degree in it and then actually studied for a master's in it as well. And from there, I applied to all the different kind of games companies around the country, even abroad. Didn't want to do it, but happy to try and do it anyway. Landed a job at EA for about a year and a half, and then moved on from there to Codemasters, where I worked for about 3 years on various kind of different titles like Formula 1, Dirt, Grid. If you like racing games, sure. If you don't, turn off right now. And then I've kind of moved from there on to, I did a bit of commercial work on PC with some of the bigger AAA studios, and now I'm kind of back into the mobile space. So it's a case of what I found was when I was kind of applying and trying to get into the industry is as kind of what Patrick mentioned was about showing your passion. Is you can always be taught stuff, but when a developer or publisher is talking to you for an interview, if you're applying everywhere, is be sure to show your passion for the industry. Please do your homework. There's nothing worse than asking you if you played our games and you go, yes, and it's like, have you? No. So it's always a case of make sure you do the homework there as well. It's a case they want to know what your insights are into the industry. Everyone's got a unique perspective, so they want to know what you've got what to say. So that was kind of how I got into the industry. And
that's great advice. Absolutely perfect. Thank you. And of course, you there work for, you named some big AAA studios that you worked for. But actually, if I could just go back to Hazim for a moment, and then Reine, I'll come to you afterwards. What's the biggest challenge of working for an independent studio? So you run an independent studio now. What lessons have you learned going it alone?
Well, it depends. It depends on the situation. So some suffer from, let's say, technical problems. They are in the first step. They are technically incapable to finish the game. Then it comes to game design. Then once you finish the game, there is user acquisition. There's so many stuff. I think one of the main problems here is financial support. For once you don't have some financial support, you don't have time to learn. So I usually urge people to work for companies and learn in these companies before opening an indie studio. This way you will learn on their pockets instead of learning from your pocket. Yes, and you will get lots of experience from people who were there and did the mistakes, and you just take the results. Yeah. So that's it.
Oh, that's good. And Reine, of course, you are, as you said earlier on, an entrepreneur. You run studios. What are the challenges there, and what did you learn?
Everything is a challenge because I'm doing all this from Lebanon, so we don't have anything there, not electricity, no internet. So it's a big challenge, but I was not nagging. I started in 2008, and it was a crazy idea to start a gaming company from the start. In a region where there's no gaming industry. And so at the beginning was really hard because we were doing independent games and putting all these games online. It was successful, but we wanted to start, to gain money. So we started advert games. Right. So we started to search for clients, and this is how we started. We had two teams, one team producing our own video games. Till now we're doing this, and we have another team where we started to do advert games, big clients from the region and now international. So this, of course, money in the region is the biggest challenge. That's why we had two services, one service, our own publishing games. Yeah. And this is how we survived till now, and we release really successful titles. Example, the last one is Antura and the Letters, to teach kids and teens, how to read and write Arabic. And it helped us to have two partners from outside Lebanon. So we had Games Without Borders and Golan Game Labs. And it's really successful, the game. And now they are using this game to teach in Spain Spanish, and also in the US English. So they are using our game to teach other languages. So I think partnership with outside of the region will help you to survive and to make your startup and then your company bigger. And this is it.
Oh, that's good. You touched on a couple of topics there that I think we might come back to, the sort of types of games and genres of games, and also the need for partnerships. I want to talk a little bit now about running a games business. People here obviously are interested in developing games, but how to make a business out of that. And remember, if anyone has any questions at any point, you can throw your hand up. I'll stop talking and ask you. So anyone can take this who wants to leap on this. Here's a big question. How do you get money to make a game? How does a person here finance a game? What's the advice that you would give them? Anyone want to take that? Go for it.
Well, it's not easy. If you are looking for an investor, no one will give you money because you are not making money.
Right.
It's simple as that. In my case, I made a tiny exit from Tomatum, so I financed my own company. So that's my case. But I think the best way is to work for a company and take a salary at first to build a small capital to start. That's one. Another thing is to start trying to create games in order to generate some money in order to start a business. Now publishers are now working with indie developers, especially hyper-casual publishers, and they are offering financing instead of just revenue share in order to for the studios to be able to create their games. So there's many ways to get money, but unfortunately in the MENA region it's not easy, and most investors, for example, they are afraid of investing in games. They think it's a risky business, but it has huge returns, and of course it's continuously changing. So that's why they are afraid to invest in it. But on the other hand, publishers all over the world are now connecting small studios wherever they are and investing in them in order to get games. So I think the fast, maybe not the easiest way, but a way to start is to start making games and sending them to publishers.
Right.
That's it.
Right, absolutely. And the indie game scene is huge, but there is opportunity there. Actually, those on the panel who are publishers, Allan perhaps, what do you suggest? What is the best way for an indie developer to pitch to a publisher? What are you looking for when you publish games?
So when we're looking for games, the idea is that, especially in hyper-casual, it doesn't take very long to create a game or at least a prototype. What we ideally look for is just a game with a solid fundamental game mechanic implemented into the game. It doesn't need to be visually polished. It doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles of all the fancy artwork and animation. It just needs to have this core element that people will be able to recognize and then come back to. That is effectively what we look for. And then from there, it's a case of we will help. At Kwalee, we actually chat to you all the time. We'll give you our advice. We kind of give you, we sometimes give you a bit of resources from our team to kind of look at videos, give you gameplay ideas. The head of development is a huge part of the Kwalee publishing process. We sit down with him for a lot of the games and he'll give you some in-depth feedback. It may not work for that game, but the nature of hyper-casual, if it doesn't work, bin it, lose the kind of take the lessons on board from the previous game, apply them to the next game, and over and over and over again, the next thing you'll find a hit. And the best part is it's a case of these publishers are here now, especially Kwalee. It's not just a case of we're after your money. It's a case, or after your games, it's a case of we want to be working with these developers now for like a long-term period. We know like developing games isn't cheap. If you've got a great game, we want to be able to help you find a commercial model that works for you guys, so you can continue to making games.
Yeah, great. A couple of you guys have mentioned hyper-casual games there. Reine talked about educational games. What kind of trends in gaming do people need to be aware of? Should they be choosing a genre to develop in that's going to be particularly big or something at the moment? Does anyone have any insight? Patrick, what do you think?
I mean, the worry there is that there's oversaturation and you're just competing with a lot of people.
Okay.
Even talking about getting funding in hyper-casual is so much different than in casual gaming, where Hazim kind of touched on it, where going and working for a big company and kind of understanding kind of the complications of these games, because they are quite complicated, at least in casual, so you can go and develop a game and understand the business models that you're trying to employ, because at least from a casual standpoint, and when you're looking at the consolidation around the market, big players I mean, like SoftBank or Tencent, like they're buying everybody. Or I mean, even like, so Wooga was purchased by Playtika, but that's because they understood like the business model and saw the promise that we had, and ultimately that's what an investor is after. They want to buy something that has promise to really grow, and so being able to understand what your own game's business model is and how that growth looks like helps that. What I would say from, sorry, because your original question was trends, other than consolidation, I think that at least in the casual market, we're just going to continue seeing lots of consolidation.
Very interesting. We're kind of well over halfway through, and I want to leap onto some other things. But before I do, does anyone else want to leap in on that question? Any trends that you're burning to tell people about that they should be mindful of?
Actually, every day we are getting a trend. Even hyper-casual games are now changing and getting more depth in order to increase retention. Mm-hmm. So I think there's any... I'm kind of guy that think that as an indie developer, we are working on casual games and hyper-casual games, but I believe indie developers should try to work on things that are not in the market. Mm-hmm. You know, to find the gaps in the market and try to fill them. Yeah. This way you won't compete with the big whales in the market, and you might get a chance to compete.
Yeah. In fact, a number of you have mentioned already that passion and drive is the most important thing. So working on a project that you believe in is more important than trying to make a cheap version of Fortnite or something like that.
Well, a bit, yes, but these days, if you don't have some money for marketing, whatever you do, you can't succeed, because the other companies will spend more, and you won't appear in the ranks. Simple as that.
Right. I want to leave some time at the end for questions. I think that'll be important. So let me skip ahead now. I would like to dispel some myths that people have about the games industry, and I'd like to hear what the reality is from you folks. So here's a question. Are you going to get rich being a game developer? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, you probably shouldn't get into this if you're just after money. Go do something like finance, or some high-paying job like that, or I mean, a lot of people here. I mean, we keep coming back to passion. Like you do it because you love it. It pays pretty well. Like you're not going to be struggling, but yeah, to get rich, I mean, well, I suppose that's why you'd start your own company.
Yeah, exactly. And Reine, obviously, you want to take this as well, because your motivations for making educational games, for instance, presumably come from a different source, I guess, rather than just making money.
Not everything we're doing is education games.
Yeah, sure.
So we're doing all kinds of games. It depends or on client or our target users. I think data shows that developers are gaining money from different ways. Sometimes they are selling other developers, skills or engines or anything. So there's a lot of ways to gain money in this industry. But it can be one of your targets. But of course, not only you need to be to have passion, you have to take a risk. So it's a big risk. And I know you will ask us about fun. So
that's coming next.
Is it fun? So it's fun during the producing the game, but it's not fun to be a developer. Sometimes it's really you have really big obstacles. The market, the user, the trends. It's a risky road. You need to have passion, to be patient, and I think also the team is really important, to have really skilled people in your team. Not everyone should be developers. Not everyone should be artists. You need some people to have skills in marketing, business development. All kind of skills. So it can be a really small team, but you need many skills and many experience. So you can't do everything alone.
Yeah, that's great. In fact,
I'll give you an example. I'm sorry.
no, please.
Because I was part of many game jams in the region as a judge or mentor or anything. So a lot of developers, teams, they start with the technology or the software to start the game. So that's why I was talking about the team. You need at least 3 skills or 2 skills. You have the game designer, he's really or she's really important in the team. The design, the art, and the development. So it's really, you have the gameplay is really important, the game mechanics, the idea, the story maybe. So it's really important to educate people in the region about this. So it's not about only the coding part,
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's many ways into the games industry, right? From all sorts of angles. The industry, like any other, requires people to have all sorts of different skills and come into it. Absolutely. And in fact, I can say that I've enjoyed 25 years of being a games journalist. There's also a way in through that route as well. In fact, on that note, then you raised it there. We can talk more about the skills involved if you like. But you absolutely preempted me there with a question. So my next myth: the games industry is always fun. You guys are just playing games all day, right? Is this true or false?
Yeah.
I play games starting 11 p.m. Every night. I need to play games, not only because I love playing games. I'm a gamer. To see to be updated, to see what's happening, and I'm a console gamer, so it's fun. I need to play a lot of games, and like I said, it's fun to create games, to think about the story, the concept. Maybe it's fun, but
it is fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, I play a lot of games every day, and it is great. One reason, kind of big fundamental reason that we do play a lot of games is to understand what's working at the moment. If you look at across the variety of genres, in particular hyper-casual genre, there are specific fundamentals in the games that are working. And if you were to actually take some time to look at the top charts and actually look at what has been working over the past month or so, you'll quickly find trends between these titles to what's actually working. And this is one of the reasons that Kwalee as a company, they do push the idea that you should be playing hyper-casual games, you should be playing games, competitors' games, as well as the games internally, because the idea is the bigger knowledge base you can kind of build, the better the games become. But yes, lots and lots of games every single day.
But also, while we're talking about fun, there's also, the games industry has a reputation of working people very hard as well. There are concerns about crunch in the games industry and how studios require their developers to work very long hours. How do we feel about that? Is that true as well?
Does crunch exist? Is that true? Well, yes. As a journalist, I'm sure you've written about it. But yeah, I think crunch it's more of a mismanagement issue. It's not having the proper expectations of what deadlines are and not aligning with like a producer on how long it takes to get these things and being realistic. I mean, this is I think the last time I crunched was, well, I won't say the company, but it was I don't know, 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so it's been a long time, and I mean there's a lot to learn from that, and just really try and just set expectations, like get try and get as honest as a timeline as possible, because I mean there's always like a game team is always kind of managing stakeholders above, managing the stakeholders below, and I mean the game team is the one that suffers in the long term, but you really have to fight stakeholders because you go to execs, they want it yesterday, always. And so this is where crunch happens, because people will try and promise that, and you just can't live up to these expectations. And so, at least in my experience, it's just mismanagement on expectation building. And
No, it makes sense. Hazim, did you want to add?
There's no crunch times in game development, because that's the normal. Every day is a crunch time. Yes, but as he said before, it's all about passion. If you are doing it because you are passionate about it, then it's not working. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the main important thing. But there's always crunch times. And the problem is it's continuously changing. Every day I wake up, I check the revenue from yesterday. At 6 o'clock, I send Omar. Omar goes to the office around 5 o'clock in the morning, leaves the office around 7 at night, and it's continuous, never ending. But you need to know when to stop. You need to know what are the limits, because okay, if you work more, you will get more money, but you won't have time to live. So
yeah, exactly.
you need to know when to stop.
There's a saying in English: if you get paid to do something you love, you never work a day in your life. Yeah. And that's a good way to think about it. So we have about 8 minutes left. I have some more questions, but don't leave it all up to me. Does anyone want to ask a question of our panel? We have a lot of experience here in the games industry. We have a question down here maybe. Now, I think perhaps there is a mic. There we go, so that we can hear you. If you do have a question, we're going to give you a mic. It means that also our translators can pick it up and discuss something. It was this gentleman here.
Hey, so you guys have a lot of diverse experience in video games. A few years ago, the industry just exploded, right? And you had people who had never played games before, and now they were playing every day on mobile devices and whatever. And it brought like this entirely new population into games. Do you think over the last year or two, those gamers have become more sophisticated with time? We touched on this a little bit, right? With hyper-casual and casual games. Even that has changed, what hyper-casual means, what casual means, has started to change. That's my impression of it, but you guys are the experts. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on the casual side. For sure, the sophistication of our users has certainly gone up. I mean, I'm on a game right now that our target audience is over the age of 55 and 75% female, right? And this is a top 100 game a lot of times in a U.S. app store. So it's yeah, as you said, it's certainly broadened who is a gamer. And I mean, many of these people don't even consider themselves gamers, right? They've just gotten into this, and this is entry level. But still, their level of sophistication is catching up very quickly with anyone in this room. So I think it's interesting to see how broad it's going, and then at the same time how deep it's going.
So back in the day, we had gamers and non-gamers, but now with all the hyper-casual games, and even with games like PUBG, it converted the non-consumers to consumers. So basically, these people are now playing games they never played before, but now I think they will look for different games, because you can't play the same game to the rest of your life. But once you start playing games, you will look for another games. So I believe the audience of gamers are increasing day by day, and there is no limit to on age or female or males. Everyone is playing games. So yes, I think they are exploding.
Just to touch on that as well, it's if you were to look back a couple of years to where it is now, the market has completely fragmented from where it was before. Mobiles have become cheaper, the high-end specs have become more accessible, so mobile as a genre itself will have obviously become more diverse, opening up more genres. Hyper-casual wasn't really around a couple of years ago. Now it's a huge genre on the market. We have streaming coming through in the next 12 months or so, which is allowing people to play console games on their mobile devices. This could be another huge shift within the mobile industry. It's a case of, as things become more accessible, I think it's naturally just going to diversify the actual games industry.
Reine, did you want to? Oh.
You were talking about a game for female. What's the game doing for female?
June's Journey.
What?
It's June's Journey. It's a hidden object game. Yeah, everyone go download it.
So females, they play these kinds of games.
I think females can play all types of games. It's just our audience really resonates with this specific game. Yeah.
Okay, so we're smart. We can find things.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I also play June Journey, by the way, so I'm the there. It's very good. Great, thank you. Do we have any other? Oh, there's a gentleman over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I have a question to Mr. Hazim. You talk about the starting capital. In Jordan, can we know about roughly number about this? And the second thing, what is the best business model? Maybe it's a very long question, but just brief. The best business model in Jordanian games companies.
Basically, in order to start a company, I think there is no specific number. I started financing the company month by month, but I think we only needed like 5K to start our company, because at the third month we started generating revenue. But this is our case because we have very good experience. But in other cases, you might need around 50K just to start breaking even, or maybe a lot higher. Talents here are challenging. You can't get talents. The competition on the talents is very high, so you need to pay a bit higher salaries, and also you need to train your employees. Regarding the business model, I don't understand. You mean the business model for?
Generating profit.
Basically, in our case, we depend on ads monetization. We create free games and we get money from the ads. But the problem here is that you need to spend a lot in order to get users to play your games and then get your money back. So you need some money in order to do some advertisement. We were lucky at the first year because Google featured one of our games, and that's how we got most of our downloads at the early stages. And the money we generated from this era, we used it to market the other games, and we kept going. If Google didn't feature our games, I think I might not be sitting here.
I think there's one of our problem. He mentioned that he can't find skills. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we don't have education in gaming till now.
Okay.
So there's no education in gaming in our region. There's we have maybe in Jordan or I don't know where, maybe in Abu Dhabi, but I don't think so. The gaming lab. So this is our biggest problem. We need education in gaming so we can find skills, in many skills in many different ways. So we're trying to push education. We're trying to start game design in universities, game development. This is really important to find skills. And we will take less time to train, these skills or fresh graduated in gaming. So now this is our biggest problem, to find skilled people in gaming.
Great. Thank you. Now we've maybe got time for maybe one, maybe two more questions if we push it. Does anyone have another question to ask out? Those are the two. Then we'll have this gentleman here first, and then
hello.
Mohammed. There we go.
This is a personal question, maybe. Can you talk about some of the dark sides of the industry? Like, personally, I'm sure it's not all rainbows and happiness and fun and all that.
Yeah, I can give you one example. When you have 4 banks calling you every day, it's really dark. It was the darkest part in this, really. I was hiding home, for 2 months at the beginning of my career in entrepreneurship and gaming. So sometimes you don't have maybe $1 in your pocket, but that's why I said you have to be patient. You have to have passion to continue as me personally as a CEO for 2 businesses in gaming. So yeah, this is a really dark thing. Thanks.
I would also, you touched on the initial aspect of needing money to start, but also, there's like a pretty big hurdle to compete as there's just more consolidation, more and more wealth is being spread out to these smaller developers, and like you spend, tens or hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of dollars per day on marketing. Right, and so how do you compete with that as an indie, or how do you compete with that without having one of these big 10 cents behind you, or some other large company? So that is not to make a dreary situation out of it, but this is something that is certainly, I think, overlooked.
Tell you what, I'm going to interrupt you there just because we're right at the end and I've got a little alarm here. We have a few seconds leeway, so I wonder, you said you had a question as well, so did you want to very quickly see if we can get perhaps a very brief one final question in? What I will say is that after this, of course, my panellists are here at the conference, so if you see them around, I hope you don't mind, perhaps people can approach you and ask. So if you have something that you'd rather ask in private, maybe find people around the conference centre.
More personal questions.
Exactly. Yes, sorry.
Excuse me, what do you think is the best marketing channel to pitch your games? Is it YouTube channel advertisement or Google advertisement or Facebook advertisement?
Based on my experience, maybe it's not the best, but we use Facebook and Instagram. It's cheap and fast, but you need to experiment. It depends on the game itself. So you need to do some campaigns here, some campaigns there. For example, I think for PC games, I think YouTube is maybe stronger. I think, I'm not sure, but in our case for mobile casual games, Facebook and Instagram is the best.
Yeah, maybe Patrick, you go for it, and then we've got time.
I was just gonna piggyback on that. Like the audience certainly will determine which channel like resonates with them, right? Like hyper casual, of course, Facebook and Instagram works for them, and probably TikTok or whatever new stuff. I mean, the two biggest, no matter what, is Google and Facebook, so it's pretty good places to start. But then after that, depending on your budgets, just getting creative and understanding the audience and where they are.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so the way that we operate is a case of Facebook and Instagram is paramount. And then obviously you can start looking at other options. You can obviously use like intermediaries such as like Iron Source. They have like great options there that will show you kind of channels that might be worth looking into. That's always a good option to explore.
Cool. I'm going to have to leave it there. I should just.
One more thing.
Oh yeah. Go on.
There's also the media is really important. Sometimes,
thank you. I was about to say Pocket Gamer. Buy as a Pocket Gamer. Sorry.
In my case, I always use things to attract media.
Yeah.
So that way, I really save a lot of money because always maybe the story or something, something innovation in the game, maybe in the story, in the gameplay, or something to attract the media. So it was always my case, and it's helped. Media is really important. E-newspapers, anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will help. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of the media. So that's actually on that. An interesting example of what you just said there is there's a British publisher called No More Robots who had a game called Not Tonight. You might remember it, but basically that's become known as the Brexit game because it piggybacks on local politics. So I'm going to have to wrap it up there. We're a minute or two over. So I've been Dave Bradley from Steel Media, and I'd like everyone to put their hands together for Reine, Patrick, Hazim, and Allan. Who, thank you.